So in level 3, our students are learning how to read. Most of the units and topics that we cover are things that they're already familiar with in either their day-to-day life or that they would be familiar with in their Chinese schools. For levels 4 and 5, however, they go from learning to read to reading to learn. That means they're going to be exposed to new, fresh content that they might not have been exposed before either in their daily life or in their Chinese schools. This means that the teacher is going to have to not only teach them the language, but the concept as well. Levels 4 and 5 and level 6 are similar in that they both cover complex texts and they both cover complex topics that the student might not encounter in their either day-to-day life or in their public school in China. However, there's some obvious differences between levels 4 and 5 and level 6. Levels 4 and 5 have phonics. There's still basic literacy that is expected to be taught to our students. They also have math, and the math is expected to be taught for the math language and not exactly for the math concepts itself. Level 6 does not have math and does not have phonics, and these are replaced by other topics when they get to level 6. When our students come into level 4, they are still reliant on the teacher to drive the conversation, or they're reliant on the sentence frame to sort of drive the class and drive the conversation. We hope through learning in VIPKid for level 4 and level 5 that our students will be able to develop critical thinking skills and also the ability to have a student-driven conversation with our teachers. The part of that would include having the language skills to be able to express oneself. It would also include having the ability to form critical independent thought so that they can express something that is different from what we're teaching in the sentence frame per se. Or they're able to make a leap from what they've learned before and sort of combine that knowledge and create something new. So we really expect the student to go from maybe a basic parroting or teacher-driven experience to one that's more student-driven and where we see a lot more student output with the conversation. Like I just mentioned previously, we're really hoping that the student will become the driving force behind the amount of output that we're seeing in levels 4 and 5. And so what can the teacher do to facilitate that? And the number one thing that I think a teacher can do for these two levels is learn how to extend. Learn how to take what they've learned and draw out from the student some sort of authentic conversation, some authentic language. If I had to pick one key skill, it would definitely be learning how to extend on the curriculum based on the student's ability, based on their cognitive development, and really try to get them to either do some free talk or expand upon concepts or expand upon sentence frames that they're being taught on a particular slide. So for levels 4 and 5, the teaching progression is going to, of course, be based on the student's skill progression. And so what does that mean? For levels 4, you would expect to have to either simplify complex themes or simplify complex concepts, and then have the student, with a lot of teacher support, try to output some of their own thoughts or some of their own language. For levels 5, we begin to see that our aim is that the teacher will have to give less support and the student will start to grow in the ability to sort of independently navigate their own learning path. Also, we would have things like cross-textual analysis, where there would be something where they would have to compare a reading passage that came in a previous lesson and make a sort of either a value judgment or create some sort of new language or new free talk that they would use with the teacher. And so we really want to see the teacher being a supporting force to the students' like active participation in learning. And hopefully by the time level 5 comes around, there's not as much support needed, and it's more like a partnership, a sort of learning partnership between the higher level students and then the our high level teachers teaching level 5. I guess the catchphrase would be putting the student in the driver's seat. So we really want the student to take, have enough autonomy to drive their own learning and drive these lessons in levels 4 to 5. So yeah, putting the student in the driver's seat, that's my catchphrase. So for levels 4 and 5, we really hope the students can get to the higher levels of the Bloom's taxonomy thinking skills. And that would be basically evaluating and creating. And so evaluating would be the student making, value judgments. This is good, this is bad, and why I think this particular way, and having some sort of, through analysis, through their own independent thought, they can come to their own conclusions. And so evaluate would be more level 4, although of course it would appear in level 5. And then by the time we get to level 5, we're hoping that there would be more, a chance for them to create their own experience with the curriculum. And so they would be able to have a free talk, and the free talk is not so much like discussing a picture or the teacher leading it, but where they would just be able to sort of have a discussion, a conversation almost among equals with the teacher. They would be able to create these situations in this language by themselves. And so that would be how I personally view the Bloom's taxonomy for levels 4 and 5. For levels 4 and 5, we are still based on the CCSS. And so the sort of CCSS model is on like a text complexity, and the student being able to interact with texts, and through this interaction gain new knowledge. And so the thing that we added in to levels 4 and 5 would be a bit more reading comprehension, and then also some elements of like close reading, or like comparing two texts through close reading to really analyze them down at like a structural level. And so that was the main drive for what separates levels 4 and 5 through what I guess would be our normal, or not normal, our more common lower level courses. So our levels 4 and 5 are not completely aligned with grades 2 and grades 3. At the same time, our students are considerably older than the average, or not all of them, but for the vast majority, they're older than the corresponding American student in grades 2 and grades 3. So we still want to hit the CCSS alignments, but we also have to be cognizant that the student's cognitive development is already a bit beyond what the CCSS expects for the grade 2 or the grade 3 American student. So the teacher needs to be able to both lower the complexity of the language while not sort of lowering the complexity of the concepts themselves, because the students are definitely smart enough to grasp, to grok what's going on, but at the same time they might not have the ability to express it. And so there needs to be like a fine line between maybe simplifying the language without simplifying the concepts or the theme being taught. I personally think levels 4 and 5 are one of the more interesting and more exciting levels that you can teach here at VIPKid, while at the same time being pretty difficult to teach, because you're sort of in a transition period away from the sort of level 2 and level 3 beginner stages into the higher end concepts, higher level concepts that'll appear later in the levels. And so while it's certainly interesting and it's exciting to see the students make this growth, I acknowledge that it's also very difficult. And so, please prepare. Don't forget that we also have pre-class videos and post-class homework and review books for the students. And so as the amount of content increases, it becomes more and more important for our students to use these pre-class and post-class resources. And so if you find a student is falling behind or is unable to sort of keep up, then please feel free to recommend these other resources for them so that they can, as a sort of intervention in their learning path.